Jagadav, so in a recent creative reel, food and calories were depicted as money moving through the body from the mouth to the stomach, then circulating like salaries to various organs. It is a fascinating metaphor. To explore it further, we have with us an art of living expert, a wellness researcher, and an officer of the Vedic Sansthan at the Sri Sri Gurukul. Jagadav, so thank you. It's a pleasure. The reel beautifully illustrates what naturally happens inside the body, not in dollars, but in prana, the subtle energy that fuels life. Now, how do the calories relate to money in the body, and how does digestion spend it? Yes, do you think of food as a currency of life? Every morsel you eat comes with an energetic value, what science calls calories and what our scriptures call annaprana. Just as money flows through an economy to sustain it, calories flow through the body to sustain it. When you eat, that money enters through the mouth, the first gate of the digestive bank, the stomach, small intestine, the liver, and pancreas act as accountants, breaking it, transforming it, and distributing it. Each organ demands its share. The heart takes its salary in the form of glucose and oxygen to keep pumping. The brain, being the CEO, consumes about 20% of this energy. The muscles, if idle, take less. If active, they demand more. Just like employees working overtime, what remains unused goes into savings, the triglycerides stored as fat. That is your biological bank balance. So, when we overeat or eat junk food, is it like bad financial management? Exactly. Junk food gives you fast cash, quick calories, instant pleasure, but very poor returns. It's like spending on impulse with a high interest credit card. You get a burst of energy, then crash. The excess is stored as fat, which, if not withdrawn by activity or metabolic demand, becomes a liability. In Ayurveda, this imbalance is called Agni Mandya, weak digestive fire. It's like a sluggish economy where resources pile up unused. Meditation and pranayama rekindle this fire, just as a wise financial advisor helps you manage and circulate your wealth properly. That's a powerful analogy. Now, how do the Sudarshan Kriya and Bhastrika Pranayama fit into this flow of inner economy? The breath is the true currency of life, subtler than food. Food gives gross calories, breath gives subtle prana. When you breathe consciously, as in Bhastrika, a forceful inhalation and exhalation, you are like an efficient taxation system, burning what is unnecessary, redistributing energy to the right organs, and expelling toxins. In Sudarshan Kriya, the rhythmic breathing patterns balance the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. This is like balancing income and expenditure in perfect rhythm. The inflow of breath represents income, prana entering, the outflow represents expenditure, toxins release, and waste leaving. When the flow is rhythmic, the internal economy thrives. So, would you say breath is digestion at a higher level? Yes, in the Vedic sense, digestion is not only of food, it is digestion of life experiences. Food nourishes the body, breath nourishes the mind, and meditation nourishes the soul. When you do Bhastrika, you are digesting emotional residues, anger, anxiety, fatigue, just as the stomach digests proteins and fats. The oxygen acts like investment capital. It energizes cells to process nutrients better. And Sudarshan Kriya then becomes the clearing house, bringing balance and peace. Now, how does this connect to the Vedic understanding of Agni and Lakshmi? That's a beautiful question. Agni, the digestive fire, is not only in the stomach, but in every cell. Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, represents flow of energy, nourishment, and abundance. When Agni burns brightly, digestion is efficient, and Lakshmi smiles upon you, meaning your energy, focus, and vitality increase. But when Agni is dull, overeating, stress, or sedentary life, the flow stops. Just like a clogged economy, pranayama, especially Bhastrika, acts like a stimulus package. It fans the inner fire. Meditation ensures that the wealth of prana is used wisely, not wasted on negative emotions or overthinking. Now, could you say that meditation is like interest earned on good digestion? In a way, yes. When your digestion is strong, the breath rhythmic, and mind calm, your body generates the ojas, which is the spiritual interest earned from good metabolic and mental balance. Ojas gives glow, clarity, and peace. You can eat simple food, but if digested with awareness and gratitude, it becomes divine currency. Similarly, when you breathe with awareness, each inhalation deposits peace in your mind bank. Now, what is your advice to modern people who eat in a rush, multitasking, and under stress? Eat like a prayer, not like a payment. Sit quietly before eating. Take a few deep breaths, invoke gratitude, and let the mind settle. If you eat with awareness, your body digests not only food but also peace. Do Bhastrika before meals to awaken Agni and Sudarshan Kriya in the morning to clear the emotional clutter. You will see that you don't just digest food, you digest it more gracefully. Now, finally, what is the deeper takeaway from this calorie money analogy? Jagadev, life is a sacred economy of energy. Food, bread, thought, all are forms of currency. How we spend them determines our health, peace, and spiritual growth. Sudarshan Kriya teaches us why spending, rhythmic breathing ensures nothing is wasted. Exactly. The Vedas say, Yata annam tatha mannam. As is the food, so is the mind. I would add, as is the breath, so is the life. When we align our eating, breathing, and thinking, the body becomes the temple, digestion, the priest, and prana, the offering. Thus, the real showing calories as money beautifully mirrors the Vedic truth. Life is about balanced exchange of food, breath, and awareness. The digestive system is the bank, prana is the currency, and meditation is the wisdom that ensures we live in spiritual prosperity. Now, how can we understand digestion as a spiritual economy? The digestion is the body's financial system. Just as the nation thrives when wealth circulates wisely, the body thrives when nutrients are efficiently absorbed and distributed. Food is income and enzymes are accountants. When the mind is peaceful, the nervous system supports the digestive market. In Ayurveda, Agni or digestive fire governs this economy. If Agni burns brightly, food becomes ojas or pure life energy. But if it is weak, toxins or ama accumulate like unpaid debt. Meditation and pranayama regulate this economy, ensuring healthy flow and balance. Now, why do we compare calories to money? Together, because both represent stored energy. Calories are the biological equivalent of currency. Every movement, every thought spends energy just as every purchase spends money. Yes, and when we overspend, overeating without activity, the surplus gets stored as fat. It's like parking uninvested funds. The Bhastrika Pranayama acts like active investment. It burns idle energy and recirculates vitality throughout the body. Now, what happens to this currency during stress? Negative stress is like inhalation and inflation. It devalues the energy. Cortisol spikes divert calories to emergency zones and slow digestion. Exactly when the mind is restless, the stomach tightens, Agni flickers, and food is poorly digested. The Sudarshan Kriya lowers stress hormones, stabilizing this inner economy, allowing nutrients to be spent for growth rather than fear. Now, how does the Bhastrika Pranayama mirror the act of eating and excreting? There, the Bhastrika is rhythmic consumption and release, breath entering like food, leaving like waste. Each inhale draws in prana, each exhale expels toxin. It's the energetic digestion of air. The lungs act like the stomach of the cell body. When practiced daily, it refines the metabolism, balances doshas, and ensures emotional waste doesn't accumulate. Now, can meditation really improve physical digestion? Absolutely. The parasympathetic state triggered by meditation activates the rest and digest mode. Our scriptures say, Yatha manah tatha agni. As is the mind, so is the fire. When thoughts settle, enzymes flow freely. Where food then becomes nourishment, not burden. Meditation is the master regulator of metabolic peace. Now, how do breath and food share the same principle of energy conversion? Both the food and breath are channels to which life energy or the prana enters the body. Food provides gross energy and breath provides subtle energy. While food burns in the stomach through digestive fire, breath fuels the cellular fire, carrying oxygen to every tissue. They are two currencies of the same divine economy. In the Vedas, anna or food and prana or breath are considered twin forms of life's sustenance. Food nourishes the physical sheath, the Annamaya kosha, and breath nourishes the vital sheath, the Pranamaya kosha. The more refined your breathing, the more efficiently your body spends food calories. Practices like Bhastrika ignite both levels simultaneously, cleansing the nadis, improving oxygen exchange, and awakening the digestive fire. It is said, breath that moves rhythmically purifies karma. Exactly, just as we manage our finances wisely, we must manage our energy wisely. Bhastrika acts as the body's investment policy. It renews oxygen reserves, detoxifies organs, and prevents sluggishness. You digest not just what you eat, but how you breathe. Now, what happens when we eat without awareness? When food enters without mindfulness, the body receives it as a transaction without gratitude. The nervous system remains tense, and blood is diverted to the brain and digestion slows. It's like depositing money in the wrong account. Energy is wasted. That's beautifully said. Now, His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar Ji often reminds us food taken in awareness becomes prasad. The vibration of gratitude activates the vagus nerve, soothing the gut and stimulating enzymes. In contrast, emotional eating confuses the Agni, the digestive fire, causing either excessive hunger or aversion. Meditation restores this sensitivity. You begin to feel what food truly suits your body, much like a wise investor knowing where to spend and where to save. Yes, and when we chant before meals or pause for a moment of silence, we align the body's inner bank with the cosmic economy. The prayer Brahmarpanam Brahma Haviha is not ritual, it's a reminder that digestion is sacred yagya, a fire ceremony of life. Now, how can the Sudarshan Kriya influence metabolism? Scientific research shows that Sudarshan Kriya lowers cortisol, improves the mitochondrial function, and regulates glucose metabolism. When stress reduces, metabolism automatically becomes balanced. The rhythmic breathing synchronizes the brain waves and heart rate, improving oxygen delivery to cells. In yogic terms, the Sudarshan Kriya harmonizes the five pranas, the prana, apana, samana, udana, and vyana. Among them, the samana vayu governs digestion and metabolism. When this flow is disturbed, energy conversion becomes erratic. Through kriya, samana becomes strong and stable, improving both appetite and assimilation. Now, it's like tuning an orchestra. When breath, mind, and metabolism are in harmony, the symphony of health plays effortlessly. People often notice that after regular Kriya, their digestion, weight, and energy naturally stabilize without any forced diet. It is metabolism managed through consciousness. Now, how does overeating affect our inner energy economy? The overeating is like taking more loans than you can repay. The stomach expands beyond capacity, the liver overworks, the blood sugar spikes, the system borrows energy to process excess, leaving the mind dull and fatigued. Exactly, in Ayurveda, the imbalance is called ama utpatti, toxic residue from incomplete digestion. It clouds the intellect and clogs the channels of prana. Regular bhastrika clears this by generating internal heat, just as a healthy economy clears bad debts through disciplined structuring. Moreover, fasting or light eating on Ekadashi is not deprivation, it is a debt repayment. You allow the digestive fire to rest, the fire to purify residues, and the prana to realign. In this way, food becomes not bondage but freedom. Now, what role does gratitude play in digestion and pranic flow? The gratitude is the highest digestive enzyme. When you eat with reverence, your parasympathetic nervous system activates, saliva increases, and food transforms more efficiently. Gurudev often says the taste of gratitude sweetens even simple food. Indeed, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "He who eats without suffering and offering the food to the divine eats sin," meaning ungrateful consumption creates imbalance. Offering food even mentally aligns your Agni with cosmic Agni. The food then becomes sacred wealth, not just calories. That's why in Art of Living centers, before every meal, we pause for a moment of silence. It's not ritual, it's a biochemical intelligence. That pause triggers the balance. The gratitude refines metabolism as the humility refines wealth. Now, how do you interpret the idea that 1 calorie is like $1? It's a powerful metaphor. Every calorie, like every dollar, represents potential energy. When we eat, we earn. When we act, we spend. If our actions don't match our intake, we accumulate. Just like uninvested savings turn into stored fat, the body is an intelligent economy that rewards the balance. Exactly, the Vedas call food the annadhana, the wealth of life, but it must circulate. Stagnant food becomes ama or toxins. Just like hoarded money breeds decay, through conscious breathing, we keep this internal wealth moving. Bhastrika pranayama is like spiritual taxation. It burns wasteful excess and redistributes energy across the organs. So both food and breath are currency flows. When digestion and respiration are rhythmic, we are in harmony with the cosmic budget. Sudarshan Kriya refines this flow, income or inhalation and processing or retention, and expenditure or exhalation. Now, in the reel shows the blood delivering salaries to organs. How does this relate to pranic distribution? That's beautifully symbolic. Blood is the courier of material currency, the glucose, oxygen, hormones. Similarly, prana is the courier of subtle energy. Each organ draws its salary according to karma, function, demand, and need. The heart takes its share, The liver demands its commission and the brain receives the premium. And just as a company collapses when accounts aren't settled, the body suffers when this circulation is blocked. Pranayama acts as an auditor. It ensures each cell gets its fair share of oxygen and life force. The rhythmic flow of Sudarshan Kriya balances the Samana Vayu or digestive energy and Vyana Vayu or circulatory energy, keeping the system transparent and corruption free. Indeed, when energy becomes honest, emotions stabilize. When prana becomes equitable, the peace dawns. The real talks about fat as money in the bank. What is the yogic view of that? Like the fat is indeed stored currency. Our bodies is fixed deposit. In moderation, it sustains us during scarcity, but excess storage indicates the imbalance, accumulation without purpose. Just as a hoarder forgets to live while saving, the sedentary forgets to move while eating. Ayurveda says Meda Dhatu, the fat tissue, is both protector and prisoner. It cushions organs but can also trap toxins. Through Bhastrika Pranayama, the inner fire or Agni is fan mobilizing stored energy and purifying channels or stotras or srotas. When done with awareness, fat becomes fuel for transformation, not heaviness. Now that's profound. So fasting, movement, and conscious breath are like withdrawing wisely from the inner bank, not destroying wealth, but reallocating it for vitality. Now, how does meditation fit into this economy of calories and prana? Yeah, the meditation is the body's stock market regulation. It civilizes fluctuations caused by greed, fear, and overconsumption. When the mind quiets, cortisol falls, insulin balances, and digestion improves. The energy market comes. In yogic terms, meditation harmonizes Agni with prana. A restless mind burns food inefficiently, creating wasteful expenditure. Meditation ensures every bite and breath are used purposefully. His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankarji often says, when the mind rests, energy multiplies. Exactly, true wealth is measured not in calories consumed, but in energy available for joy, creativity, and service. Meditation converts gross energy into subtle light, like converting coins into diamonds. Now, the reel humorously depicts digestion as a team effort. What's the deeper truth behind that? Every organ is a department of the divine ministry of life. The stomach is finance, intestines are distribution, liver is the treasury, lungs are the central bank, and the brain is a parliament. Each depends on the other's honesty. That's such a vivid picture. When one department overspends, say, the stomach overeats, the others go into deficit. Breath work, like Bhastrika, resets this cooperation. It's like a national budget meeting between cells and consciousness. Sudarshan Kriya is the parliament in session, restoring fiscal harmony between mind, metabolism, and emotions. And when all departments work together, the nation of the body prospers, digestion is smooth, breath is steady, and thoughts is pure, and life feels abundant. Now, the fat bank idea from the reel is hilarious yet thought provoking. Can you explain how this truly reflects karma and prana balance? Indeed, it's quite symbolic. Just like money doesn't disappear but gets transferred or stored energy, the calories of prana doesn't vanish, it transforms. When we overeat or live in stress, the pranic energy gets stored in the wrong places, like fat in the belly. The triglyceride bank is a beautiful metaphor for the sanchit karma, the stored impressions of our actions. Every thought, every meal, every breath is a transaction in this energetic economy. Sudarshan Kriya and Bhastrika work as pranic auditors. They release the accumulated toxins and stored impressions by circulating prana uniformly. When the breath rhythm aligns with the body's natural flow, digestion, metabolism, and energy distribution all balance out. In economic terms, it's like reinvesting resources efficiently instead of hoarding them in one sector. Now, can you describe how Bhastrika Pranayama and Sudarshan Kriya transform these internal energy transactions? Like the Bhastrika is a vigorous breathing practice that increases oxygen intake and stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. It's like giving your metabolism a salary raise. You are literally burning through emotional and physical stagnation, the bad debts of the body. Sudarshan Kriya, with its cyclic breathing patterns, harmonizes these inflows and outflows. It teaches the body to spend energy mindfully, not impulsively. After regular practice, the body learns to digest not just food but emotions, anger, guilt, greed, without storing them as toxins or fats. In biochemical terms, oxygen becomes the new currency. Prana replaces calories just as wise investors diversify. A yogi balances a physical, emotional, and spiritual energy through rhythmic breath. Now, in that same reel, blood is shown delivering salaries to organs. How can we relate this to the concept of seva or selfless service in the body and in life? Jagadev, what a brilliant connection. The blood, like a devoted sevak, doesn't hold on to anything. It constantly circulates, nourishes, and keeps everything alive. It never says, "This oxygen is mine." It gives and moves on. This is Nishkam Karma, action without attachment. The organs to play their part. The heart doesn't hoard the blood, it simply pumps. The liver purifies, the kidneys filter, the lungs exchange. Every system serves silently. This is exactly what His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar Ji teaches through Seva, that energy must flow. When you hold on, whether to wealth, food, or emotions, it stagnates. Disease arises where prana and energy stops moving. Seva, like circulation, purifies the whole organism of society. The Bhastrika and Sudarshan Kriya mirror this. Through rhythmic giving and receiving of breath, we learn the art of selfless flow. Now, what happens physiologically when this internal flow stops? When we hold calories or emotions too long, either when we resist low, whether through suppressed emotions or sedentary lifestyle, both metabolism and mental state slow down. Unused energy becomes storage, fat, acidity, or chronic stress. On a cellular level, the mitochondria are energy factories, reduce efficiency. This is like a company with blocked cash flow. Nothing moves and the system goes into deficit. Meditation and pranayama restart the circulation. In Bhastrika, the rapid breath acts as a pranic wind, blowing away stagnation. The Sudarshan Kriya further equalizes pressure, so every cell receives oxygen and releases carbon dioxide efficiently. Psychologically, this releases long held emotions, rebalancing hormones like serotonin and dopamine. The digestive fire or Agni rekindles, and we stop overeating unconsciously because the inner hunger is finally satisfied, not by calories but by consciousness. Now, could you elaborate on this inner hunger, and how does a spiritual hunger relate to overeating and imbalance in today's lifestyle? Like, the modern life has mistaken emotional emptiness for physical hunger. When the heart feels unloved or restless, we try to fill it with food, just like a poor investor throwing money into a failing business. True hunger is of the soul, to connect, to be still, to belong. The Upanishads describe this as Anna Brahma, the food itself is divine. But when we eat without awareness, we misuse that dignity and divinity. In meditation, the same energy that seeks food turns inward, finding nourishment in silence. When Sudarshan Kriya or Bhastrika is practiced regularly, the craving for external satisfaction naturally drops because prana starts feeding the subtle body. One begins to eat not out of emptiness but out of gratitude. Now, the reel also shows that after digestion, blood deposits leftover calories into the triglyceride bank. Can you explain this scientifically and spiritually? Absolutely, Jayagurda. When we eat more calories than the body needs for immediate energy, the liver converts the surplus into triglycerides, which are then stored in fat cells. And this is the body's way of saving for rainy days. It's similar to depositing extra money into a savings account. However, if we keep depositing but never withdraw through activity or mindful living, the system goes into imbalance, leading to obesity, fatigue, and even depression. Spiritually, these triglycerides represent stored impressions or samskaras. Just as excess money creates attachment, excess energy stored without flow leads to heaviness and dullness. The Bhastrika and Sudarshan Kriya act as pranic withdrawals, releasing energy that's been sitting stagnant. The rhythmic breath turns and burns away not just fat but the emotional residues linked with those extra calories. Gurudev beautifully says breath is the bridge between body and mind. When this bridge is clear, digestion, both physical and emotional, happens effortlessly. Now, when the blood pays each organ in that reel, the heart, the kidney, the muscles, it's like a mini economy inside the body. How can we interpret this as a model for dharmic living? Indeed, the body is the most perfect economy. Every cell earns, spends, and gives back in balance. That this is dharma, the right action in right proportion. The heart doesn't demand all the energy; it shares it with every organ. The kidneys quietly purify. The brain consumes energy only for vital functioning. This coordination is what we call Rita, the cosmic order. When man lives by this order, society thrives, but greed, whether for food, money, or pleasure, disrupts the harmony. Meditation restores dharma because it realigns us with nature's intelligence. Sudarshan Kriya trains the system to follow Rita by balancing the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. In financial terms, it teaches us not to overspend our energy or hoard unnecessarily. True dharma is circulation, give, receive, and remain centered. Now, many people try to burn calories through exercise alone, but still feel mentally heavy. How does breath work help where physical training fails? That's a vital question. Physical exercise burns calories, yes, but it doesn't necessarily clear mental and emotional toxins. The heaviness people feel often comes from stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline that remain active even after workouts. The breath work, especially Bhastrika, goes deeper. It oxygenates tissues, rapidly alkalizes the blood, and activates the vagus nerve, which calms the mind. The body then shifts from fight or flight to rest and digest. Sudarshan Kriya extends this by harmonizing the brain's alpha, beta, and theta waves, creating coherence between the heart and mind. The result, emotional digestion, happens naturally. You no longer eat to fill a void, you eat because the body truly needs fuel. That's why breath based metabolism is more sustainable than gym based metabolism. One transforms muscle, the other transforms consciousness. Now, in ancient texts, food is often compared with prasad or the divine offering. How does this idea connect to the reels' metaphor of calories as currencies? That's a beautiful question. When food is seen as prasad, eating becomes worship. You value every calorie because it carries divine intelligence. When awareness is absent, we spend this currency carelessly, like throwing coins in the drain. Every bite, each bite should be a conscious investment. When we chew slowly and eat with gratitude, the body digests more efficiently because the mind is at peace. Modern science now proves that mindful eating improves nutrient absorption and reduces overeating. In Bhastrika and Sudarshan Kriya, this awareness extends even to breath, the ultimate food. The air we breathe and inhale is Mahaprasad. When we breathe consciously, every inhalation is an investment in vitality, every exhalation a donation of stress back to the universe. This is true wealth management, the management of prana. Now, what happens when this pranic economy goes into deficit, when people face burnout or exhaustion despite eating well? Jagdish, that's a wonderful question. Burnout is like bankruptcy or prana. You may have calories, vitamins, and proteins, but if the energy circuit is disconnected, you feel drained. Chronic stress consumes prana faster than it can be replenished. The adrenal glands keep producing cortisol, which suppresses digestion and immunity. It's like withdrawing energy without making deposits. Sudarshan Kriya reverses this by restoring parasympathetic dominance, recharging the system. Studies from Harvard, NIMHANS, and other institutes show that this breathwork lowers stress markers and enhances mitochondrial efficiency. It's as though you are refinancing your energy debt with a high value pranic currency. Over time, the body learns to operate on less anxiety and more awareness, creating real wealth not in the wallet but in the well being. Now, in the reel, the muscle asks for more payment after a run. How can we relate this to the spiritual principle of karma and return? Indeed, Degudev, that is a symbolic representation of karma. Every action we perform, whether a physical act like running or mental one like thinking requires energy. The muscles' request for payment mirrors how karma demands its result. When you act mindfully, you spend energy wisely and receive nourishment in return. But when actions are impulsive or born of greed, the energy expenditure exceeds the return, leading to fatigue or disease. In the Vedas, it is said, Yagnarthat karmanyo nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. Action done without sacred purpose binds us in Sudarshan Kriya and Bhastrika Pranayama. This cycle of giving and receiving is purified. Each breath is in karma being performed. Each breath out is a fruit being surrendered. When one practices with devotion, the inner muscles, the subtle nadis, are paid in prana, not in fat or stress. Thus, karma becomes seva and energy remains balanced. Now, if calories are like money and digestion is like expenditure, what is the equivalent of saving or investment in the human body? That's a very insightful comparison. The body's investment systems is rest, repair, and meditation. During sleep, digestion slows, but cell rejuvenation accelerates. This is the body investing its profits. However, if one overeats or overstresses, the body has no energy left for these investments. Meditation, especially Sudarshan Kriya, functions like a high yield savings plan. It multiplies energy by calming the nervous system. Scientific research shows that during rhythmic breathing, oxygen uptake becomes more efficient and serotonin and dopamine levels rise naturally. This leads to better metabolic efficiency, meaning you get more energy from less food. In spiritual terms, awareness is the compound interest of consciousness. Every moment you stay present, you add to this pranic wealth. So, eating mindfully, breathing consciously, and resting efficiently and sufficiently are the three golden rules of pranic investment. Now, when the belly gives calories to the muscles in that reel, it's almost like a spiritual loan. Can we interpret fat storage as a lesson in karma or attachment? Yeah, absolutely. Fat storage is not just a biological process, it's also symbolic of unprocessed experiences and attachments. When we consume more than we can digest physically or emotionally, the body stores it just as unfulfilled desires become karmic debts. Undigested food becomes fat. The belly, therefore, is a bank of impressions. Through Bastrika, we shake this bank. Through Sudarshan Kriya, we dissolve the accounts. The powerful exhalations in Bastrika are like paying off karmic loans, expelling stale energy from the system. In yoga, this is called apana vayu, the downward moving energy responsible for elimination. When this current is strong, both digestion and detachment become effortless. Thus, the more we breathe consciously, the less we cling. The pranic economy remains fluid, not frozen in detachment or stored as fat. Now, modern diets often talk about metabolic flexibility. How does Sudarshan Kriya contribute to this concept? Yeah, the metabolic flexibility refers to the body's ability to switch between burning carbohydrates and fats efficiently. But what governs this flexibility? It's the nervous system. When we are stressed, the sympathetic system dominates and the body clings to glucose, refusing to burn fat. Sudarshan Kriya restores the parasympathetic balance, allowing insulin and leptin, or hunger regulating hormones to function properly. Breath becomes a regulator of fuel's usage. Think of it as switching from short term trading to long term investment. Instead of burning only quick sugars, the body learns to draw on stored reserves calmly. The oxygenation during rhythmic breathing improves mitochondrial performance, turning every cell into a mini power plant. This is why regular practitioners often notice improved digestion, stable weight, and higher stamina. Without extreme diets, pranayama thus brings metabolic intelligence, where the body knows exactly how much to spend and how much to save. Jagadish, so can you explain how ancient scriptures connected Agni or the digestive fire to the inner self and how it relates to the prana today? In the Rig Veda, Agni is the first word. The Agni Mile Purohitam. Agni is both the physical fire that digests food and the spiritual fire that digests the karma. Every meal we eat is an offering into this sacred fire. When Agni is balanced, we feel light and clear. When it is dull, we feel lethargic. Similarly, the Prana Agni, the fire of breath, burns subtle impurities. Vastrika is the modern ritual of this inner yagya. Each inhalation fans the flame, each exhalation releases the smoke of toxins. In Sudarshan Kriya, the rhythm of breath synchronizes this fire with the universe's heartbeat. Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji says, Prana is the invisible Agni that transforms matter into consciousness. So when digestion, breath, and awareness unite, we become walking yagyas. Our life itself becomes a sacred offering, and no calorie, no moment goes wasted. Now, you beautifully describe the body as a bank of impressions. Can you elaborate how emotions are digested just like food and how breathwork supports the process? Yeah, the emotions like food need to be processed and eliminated. When we experience a strong emotion, be it anger, fear, or lust or grief, the nervous system releases biochemical messengers such as adrenaline and cortisol. If the emotion is acknowledged and allowed to move through awareness, these hormones are metabolized just like nutrients. But when we suppress or overindulge in emotions, they remain undigested, stored as tension in muscles of or fat. Breath is the bridge that connects these biochemical and psychological processes. In Bastrika, the forceful exhalation expels the carbon dioxide and emotional toxins, while in Sudarshan Kriya, the rhythmic breathing patterns help in limbic system, the brain's emotional center, find equilibrium. It's like a spiritual liver cleansing your emotional bloodstream. Over time, practitioners find that they no longer overeat when stressed or withdraw when sad because their inner digestive fire, both physical and emotional, is alive and clear. Emotional digestion, therefore, is not a metaphor. It's a living process powered by the conscious breath. Now, in the Vedas, food is described as Anna Brahmam. The food is divine. How can this view transform the way modern people approach diet and health? The Anna Brahma means food itself is a visible form of God. When we see food as sacred energy rather than pleasure or convenience, a relationship with it transforms. Every calorie becomes a mantra, every morsel a meditation. The problem today is not food but forgetfulness. We eat in haste, distracted by screens, unaware of what enters the temple, the body. The Vedas say, Yad Annam Tadamana, meaning as the food. So the mind processed restless food creates a restless mind. Sattvic food, fresh, light, and balanced, nourishes clarity and peace. When combined with practices like Sudarshan Kriya, digestion becomes effortless because the mind is peaceful. Gurudev often reminds us that the highest form of diet is not just organic, but organized, aligned with nature's intelligence. So the next time we eat, let us remember that we are not feeding just the body, but the divine fire within it. Now, you mentioned that stress blocks digestion. Could you explain the physiological link between the breath, the vagus nerve, and the digestive health? Jayadu, yes, this is where science and spirituality meet beautifully. The vagus nerve is the body's main communication line between brain and gut. When we are anxious or rushed, the sympathetic system dominates, constricting blood flow to the stomach and slowing digestion. Shallow breathing tells the brain that danger is near, even if we are only scrolling through emails. Deep rhythmic breathing, like in Bhastrika and Sudarshan Kriya, activates the vagus nerve, triggering the parasympathetic rest and digest state. Studies from Harvard, NIMHANS, and Stanford show that regular practitioners of these techniques have higher vagal tone, meaning better gut motility, enzyme secretion, and nutrient absorption. In essence, when the breath flows smoothly, the gut smiles. This is why yogis call breath the prana shakti. It's not just air, it's intelligence guiding every cellular process. When breath becomes rhythmic, life itself becomes a melody of balance. Now, in the animated reel, the organs seem to have a conversation about salary, like employees in a company. What spiritual lesson can we draw from this? That's a wonderful observation. That scene mirrors how every organ, like every individual in society, performs swadharma, its own rightful duty. The heart doesn't compare itself to the brain, nor does the liver envy the kidneys. Each contributes according to its design. The economy of the body thrives on cooperation, not competition. Likewise, when people follow their swadharma without ego or greed, the social organism functions harmoniously. This is what the Bhagavad Gita teaches. Better one's own duty imperfectly than another's is perfectly performed. Meditation and breathwork refine our perception to recognize this divine orchestration. When the prana flows freely, jealousy, comparison, and insecurity dissolve. Just as digestion depends on harmony among organs, spiritual growth depends on alignment between thought, word, and action. That is the dharmic living, inner economy in balance. Now, what happens during Sudarshan Kriya that allows both physical and emotional toxins to leave the system so effectively? Yeah, the Sudarshan Kriya technique works on multiple physiological levels simultaneously. First, it regulates oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange, which stabilizes the body's pH and improves the metabolism. Second, it modulates brainwave patterns, creating coherence between the left and right hemispheres. Third, it enhances circulation and lymphatic drainage, which physically removes the waste. But the most profound effect is subtle. It increases pranic flow through the nadis, dissolving stagnation at the energetic level. Scientifically, this corresponds to a reduction in cortisol and an increase in serotonin and gamma brain waves. That's why after the Kriya, people report feeling lighter, not just mentally, but in their digestion too. Breath here acts like a financial audit. It clears emotional debts, reorganizes metabolic accounts, and restores liquidity in energy. Gurudev says, when the breath moves freely, the karma becomes currency for awakening. This is the ultimate detox, the purification of both biology and being. Now, in today's real and research based discussions, we often hear about a gut brain axis. Could you explain how meditation, pranayama, and Sudarshan Kriya scientifically influence this connection? Together, the gut brain axis is one of the most fascinating discoveries of modern neuroscience. Our intestines have a network of over 500 million neurons called the enteric nervous system, which communicates directly with the brain through the vagus nerve. When we experience stress or anxiety, the brain sends distress signals to the gut, slowing digestion or causing inflammation. Likewise, poor digestion can trigger mental fog, irritability, or even depression. Now, practices like Sudarshan Kriya and Pranayama directly activate the vagus nerve through rhythmic breathing. This lowers cortisol and increases parasympathetic activity. The body says rest and digest mode. Clinical studies conducted at Ames and Harvard have shown that participants practicing these techniques experience a balanced gut microbiota and reduce inflammatory markers. Essentially, the deep rhythmic breathing tells every cell you are safe. When the gut feels peaceful, the mind automatically settles. In this state, the food is digested more efficiently, nutrients are absorbed better, and emotional balance is restored. As His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji often says, when the breath harmonizes, the mind smiles, the gut becomes a seat of serenity, and every breath becomes the nourishment. Now, how do ancient Ayurvedic texts like Charak Samhita and Ashtanga Hridayam explain this gut mind connection from a spiritual point of view? Jagadev, Ayurveda has always viewed digestion as more than breaking food, it's a transformation of experience into energy. Charaka says, Rogaha sarve api mande agno. All diseases begin with weakened digestion, but this Agni is not just in the stomach, it is in the mind too. When emotional digestion is poor, when resentment, fear, or guilt are not processed, they become toxins or ama. Gurudev simplifies this beautifully. Don't hold on to the past, digest it. Through meditation, we light the inner fire that transforms ama into awareness. In Ashtang Hridayam, the balance of Vata, Pitta, Kapha is said to depend on the clarity of Manas or mind. Similarly, Sudarshan Kriya, Bhastrika, and even simple chanting of Om kindle this clarity. The vibration reorganizes subtle energies, just as enzymes break down food. When the pranic fire burns steady, both the stomach and the soul feels light. You stop carrying old impressions and start living spontaneously. This is the true health of swastika being established in the self. Now, is there modern biochemical evidence supporting this fire of digestion or Agni, and how can we scientifically correlate with it? Yes, Jagat, the modern science beautifully aligns with this ancient concept. The Agni Ayurveda speaks of can be compared to mitochondrial metabolism and enzymatic activity in digestion. When we eat mindfully, the brain releases acetylcholine, which stimulates the gastric secretions and enhances nutrient absorption. Stress, however, activates the sympathetic nervous system, diverting blood away from the digestive tract and reducing enzyme production. This is equivalent to low Agni practices like meditation, and slow rhythmic breathing increases the parasympathetic dominance, which reignites the digestive fire. Furthermore, research in psychoneuroendocrinology shows that meditative breathwork raises DHEA levels, a hormone that supports metabolism, immunity, and cellular repair. The Art of Living's Sudarshan Kriya programs have demonstrated improved antioxidant status and mitochondrial efficiency in participants. So, yes, Agni is very real both biochemically and spiritually. When it burns evenly, life feels effortless. You digest not only food, but every moment with grace. Now, the reel shows that blood acting like a delivery worker who never stops. How can we understand this in terms of Karma Yoga, the yoga of action taught by His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji? Jagadev, the blood never takes credit for its service. It flows constantly, performing its karma without pride or expectation. This is the essence of Karma Yoga. Gurudev always says, do your work and let go. The result will come on its own, just as the blood doesn't decide which organ is more important, it serves all equally. The true Karma Yogi serves everyone without discrimination. In today's world, we often see stress born out of comparison and ego. The liver doesn't complain that the brain gets more glucose, it just purifies quietly. Similarly, when we work selflessly without attachment, we become part of the universal rhythm. Practices like Sudarshan Kriya, Padma Sadhana, and Seva train us to act in this flow. Breath is like blood for the subtle body. It carries prana or life force to every part of our being. When the mind stops resisting, energy flows freely and we become natural instruments of the divine. That is Karma Yoga in motion, like blood circulating silently, sustaining the universe within. Now, from a medical perspective, how does this constrained and constant seva or blood reflect our health and emotions? Like the blood is the ultimate example of balance and adaptability. It maintains homeostasis, temperature, pH, and oxygen levels like a perfect servant, adjusting moment by moment. When emotions are turbulent, anger, fear, or anxiety, the heart rate and blood pressure rise. Stress hormones like adrenaline constrict vessels, making the flow rigid. Over time, this leads to hypertension, heart disease, and fatigue. But when one practices meditation or Sudarshan Kriya, the breath stimulates the vagus nerve and lowers the sympathetic response. This relaxes the blood vessels, improves circulation, and harmonizes the entire cardiovascular system. Emotionally, this translates to feeling light or open hearted. Interestingly, blood flow in the limbic system, the emotional center of the brain, also becomes more regulated after breath work. So, the more selflessly we flow in life, the healthier our blood flow becomes. Science and spirituality are not separate here, they mirror one another perfectly. Now, can this same flow principle apply to wealth and success as well? As Gurudev often relates abundance to circulation. Absolutely, Gurudev says Money is like blood, it must circulate. When wealth flows with purpose, it brings prosperity to all. When hoarded, it becomes like stagnant blood, causing blockages, greed, and worry. Ancient wisdom, Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, is always depicted in movement, flowing through open palms. The same is true for prana and fortune. When you share, you create space for more to come. This is not just spiritual poetry, it's a practical energy economics. The more we give through charity, kindness, or service, the more our internal chemistry shifts. Dopamine and oxytocin rise, reducing stress and improving immune response. Thus, giving creates both emotional and physical wealth. Gurudev teaches that abundance is not measured by what you have, but by how freely you can give. Just as the blood nourishes organs and moves on, our resources should nourish society and move forward. That is the real Artha Yoga, the yoga of prosperity and flow. Now, in the reel, we see how the digestive system charges for processing, like paying a digestion tax. How can this be understood in both biologically and spiritually? Yeah, that's a brilliant metaphor. Every food we eat has an energy cost, not only in calories but also in effort by our organs. The stomach, liver, pancreas, and intestines all charge energy for digestion. For example, highly processed or fried foods require more effort, leading to fatigue and toxin buildup. On the other hand, light, fresh, and sattvic food digests easily and saves energy money. Spiritually, this mirrors the law of karma. Every action has a cost. If we overindulge or eat unconsciously, our body pays the price later as acidity, heaviness, or lethargy. Through pranayama like Bhastrika, we balance this expenditure. Deep rhythmic breathing improves digestion by massaging internal organs and activating the parasympathetic system. Thus, breath becomes a spiritual currency. It recharges the system while food spends it. The more consciously we breathe and eat, the wealthier our body becomes in terms of vitality and clarity. Now, the reel also shows blood paying salaries to organs. How does this idea relate to the ancient Vedic concept of rinam or debt or responsibility? That's a beautiful question. In the Vedas, the rinam means the debt of existence to gods, sages, ancestors, and society. Similarly, every cell owes its life to the heart and the digestive fire or jatragni. Blood distributes this repayment daily by delivering nutrients and oxygen, a constant act of gratitude. In spiritual terms, this teaches us the seva bhav, to give back what we receive. When we ignore this principle and live selfishly, energy stagnates like unpaid debt. Sudarshan Kriya helps release that subtle heaviness, cleansing the physical and emotional debts we hold in the body. Breath becomes a currency of liberation. Each exhale is repayment, every inhale is divine credit. His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar Ji often says, you owe it to yourself to be happy and to the world to share that happiness. That is Rinam or Parityaga, freedom through fulfilled giving. Now, the reel humorously ends with fat being deposited in the triglyceride bank. How does the body actually decide to store or spend these calories? And what role does meditation play here? The bank analogy is scientifically perfect. When we consume more calories than needed, insulin signals the liver and fat cells to store the excess as triglycerides. This is like depositing unused cash, but under chronic stress, the body mismanages this money. Cortisol, the stress hormone, increases fat storage, especially around the belly. Meditation acts as a regulator. Studies on Sudarshan Kriya show reduced cortisol, better insulin sensitivity, and balanced lipid profile. It's profiles. It's as though the body's accountants start managing resources wisely again. Breath awareness reminds us the system: spend only what you earn, save only what is needed. Spiritually, fat represents unprocessed experiences, emotional calories that were never digested. Through Bhastrika and deep meditation, this stored heaviness gets released as lightness and vitality. So the real wealth is not in how much energy we store, but in how gracefully we circulate it through body, mind, and service. Now, in the reel, the body is shown like a busy marketplace. Food comes in, the money or the calories changes hands, and finally, some is stored as savings. How can we serve this internal marketplace wisely through the teachings of the art of living? Together, the body is indeed a sacred marketplace where every transaction matters. His Holiness Gurudev Shri Abhishankarji often says, your body is a temple, not a dustbin. When we eat with awareness, we are offering sacred wealth, the Annadanam, to our own divine system. Service begins within. Just as we wouldn't waste currency, we must not waste prana or overload digestion with greed or hurry. The art of living teaches mindful eating, where gratitude, calmness, and joy become the spices that make food divine. When you cook or eat in a peaceful state, the energy of that food, its prana shakti, multiplies. In this sense, serving your body with clean, balanced food is an act of seva to the divine dwelling within. And when your body feels light and clear, your mind naturally turns outward to serve others, to share love and knowledge. True wealth is health that overflows into generosity. Now, how does eating healthy and digesting well actually make us richer in terms of vitality, brain function, and emotional strength? Together, every meal is a financial investment in our body's economy. The healthy food, rich in fiber, antioxidants, and micronutrients, creates a long term wealth in the form of strong immunity, balanced hormones, and emotional resilience. For instance, whole grains and vegetables provide slow releasing energy, keeping blood sugar stable and the brain calm. This stability translates to better focus and patience. In contrast, the fast food gives quick cash but drains our system, like taking a payday loan at high interest. When digestion is smooth, the body spends less energy on repair and more on creativity, compassion, and clarity. Meditation complements this by shifting the nervous system into a restorative allowing nutrients to be assimilated better. Scientific studies show that regular practitioners of Sudarshan Kriya have improved metabolism, reduced cravings, and even better gut microbiome diversity. So health becomes an expanding investment. Food provides the capital, digestion manages it, and meditation multiplies it into lasting vitality. Now, how can we extend this idea of self service and inner wealth into outer service, like feeding others, helping communities, donating money, or teaching courses, and spreading the art of living wisdom through food? This is the highest form of abundance. Gurudev reminds us that seva begins when you feel so full that you naturally want to share. Once your body and mind are nourished, you become capable of feeding others not only with food but with peace, smiles, and knowledge. In the art of living, many volunteers prepare the Annadana, the serving free meals in villages, disaster zones, and schools. This is not mere charity, it's a sacred energy exchange. When food is cooked with meditation and love, its vibrations heal. Serving such food becomes both karma yoga and bhakti yoga. Even offering healthy meals to family or teaching others to cook mindfully is service. The real wealth of life is measured not only by the fat in the belly, but by the lightness in the heart. When you eat with gratitude and serve with joy, you harmonize body, mind, and spirit. That harmony is true richness. Now, in the reel, after the fast food enters the digestion system spends more quickly and stores extra calories in the fat bank. But when healthy food like salmon and quinoa comes in, the transactions change. How does this symbolize what actually happens in a body? That part of the reel is biologically and spiritually profound. Fast food represents tamasic energy, the heavy, oily, quick pleasure, but slow digestion. It's like spending money recklessly. The body has to work over time, paying high interest in the form of fatigue, acidity, and inflammation. Eventually, the leftover cash becomes fat stored in the belly, unused potential. But when nutritious food enters, the digestion cost is balanced. The body processes it efficiently, spends energy wisely, and builds vitality instead of storage fat. This is the ideal metabolic economy. His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankarji often explains that awareness transforms digestion. When we eat calmly, chew slowly, and breathe deeply, the Agni or the digestive fire burns bright and clean. Bhastrika Pranayama acts like a turbo boost for the system, enhancing oxygenation, cleansing cellular waste, and improving metabolism. In short, healthy food and conscious breathing together make us energetic millionaires of vitality, not bankrupt from laziness or cravings. Now, the reel shows that the food distributes money to each organ as a salary. How can this distribution be seen as the flow of prana through our nadis or the energy channels? Yeah, that's a beautiful question. What science calls circulation, yogic wisdom calls prana pravaha, the flow of life force. The blood is like the currency of the physical world, while prana is the currency of the subtle world. Each organ has its own account. It takes energy, performs duty, and maintains balance. But when greed, stress, or an unhealthy food block these channels, prana doesn't flow freely. It's like corruption in a company. Resources get stuck. That's when we feel tired, anxious, or bloated. Sudarshan Kriya restores transparency in this internal economy with rhythmic breathing. It clears the energetic debts and redistributes vitality evenly. The heart, kidneys, liver all start functioning in harmony again. When the prana flows smoothly, both digestion and emotions get balanced. That's why Gurudev says a strong body, a pure mind, and a loving heart make a complete human being. The blood's salary and prana's blessings are one and the same. They sustain the whole system. In the real, the belly bank lends calories when the muscle runs out of energy. How can this metaphor help us understand fat storage and release in spiritual terms? Jagadev, yes, fat storage is often misunderstood, just like the reel shows. It's an intelligent system. Our body saves energy for future use like a good banker, but the problem begins when deposits exceed withdrawals. Spiritually, this reflects attachment, holding on to experiences, thoughts, or possessions without letting go. In yogic terms, the Bhastrika and Sudarshan Kriya help to burn these stored impressions or samskaras. When the breath moves forcefully in Bhastrika, the belly contracts and releases, massaging internal organs and activating stored pranic energy. It's literally like withdrawing funds from your fat account for useful work. Metabolically, it improves insulin sensitivity and burns fat. Energetically, it releases suppressed emotions. The key is not to shame the body, but to understand it has a temple accountant, keeping everything balanced. When food, breath, and thought are in harmony, fat becomes fuel and energy becomes freedom. That is true spiritual wealth. Now, in the real, after eating healthy food, the body economy changes, the muscle demands more energy after exercise, and the belly willingly lends from its fat bank. How does this reflect the art of living philosophy of selfless service and balance? Jagadev, that moment in the reel is deeply symbolic of seva, the selfless service. The belly, which once hoarded energy, now shares it for the greater good of the body. In life, when we live unconsciously or when we accumulate food, wealth, or emotions, but when awareness turns to meditation and breathing practices, we become givers rather than hoarders. The muscles' request for energy is like life's call for action. The belly sharing its savings is like a devotee sharing abundance for the upliftment of others. In the art of living His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankarji reminds us that true wealth is in circulation. When you share what you have, it grows. Similarly, when we eat healthily and live consciously, energy flows smoothly. So, no part of the body or mind suffers from excess or deficiency. Serving our body with good food and our mind with good thoughts is the first seva. Serving others naturally follows, say Chakradev.